what were you trying to do?
I was just trying to use my headphones.
Dude, you got to get some like stop using those knockoffs.
Yeah.
Or like the ones the ones you get for free for going to an event or something.
Oh, that's the worst, right? That's the
And
worst.
you leave them in the car and they melt by the time you get back.
The ones that you used to get like free on the plane 5 years ago,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Even better, even better. No, but you need those because if you have headsets, you can't plug into Delta. I saw a thing that I refused to buy, but apparently, you plug it into the little screen on the plane, and it creates a Bluetooth for you to log into. Do
Oh
I
shit, nice.
do I need that? I don't know. I don't know if I need that.
Yeah, I mean the amount of times that I plug in and use anything from a plane anyways anymore is like zero. So
No, no, that's
I'm
why
not,
I keep the whatever the big over the ear ones.
yeah, totally.
The only time I use it is on the plane, and
Yep.
it has its own plug, and and that's the only time I use it.
Yeah, man. I don't know where mine are right there. But that's it. Like I have giant oversized noise canceling ones. That's it.
Yeah.
Like that's the only way I travel. And I'm always on my computer working anyway. So like I don't even know the last time I plugged in and watched like a movie on a plane.
Uh, I mean, I'm usually sleeping on the plane, so I would be mad if I bought this little device and then never used it.
Yeah, not worth it, man. Not worth it.
There was like especially during pandemic when you travel I traveled literally every week. There was no movies that I watched everything. It's a wrap. Like it's done. I have no interest in watching Moana a 93rd time. Yeah, it's awful, man.
Oh,
Uh,
that's funny.
what's going on, man? How are you?
Incredible, man.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready to ship out to Boulder tomorrow,
Hmm.
Thursday. So,
All right. The
uh, banging guys out though, getting taking care of guys that are in the UK right now,
uh-huh.
playing some golf tournaments.
That's right.
Whom
That's right.
you may know.
the okay, so for you know this, but I don't know if anybody else knows this. So we have nothing prepared. This is not like a podcast where one of us asks questions. But if anybody wants to ask questions, like usually how lives go, that's no problem. I will simply say for me, I do not guarantee that I will answer every question, given sometimes what people might think is funny for me to say, the person I would be saying it about may not think it's funny. I've grown up quite a bit in that regard. Um, but hey, so let's see. The first time I heard your name was definitely several years ago, and I'm curious to see where this fits in to your career. Because everybody seems to have some degree of time, when people really recognize them, and it's very it's very very proud to see good people get recognized as you have over the last couple of years. But I think most of the time, people have been doing some really good things before social media made them aware. I know Mike Boyle would say about me, Charlie might have known a few things before you knew he was in the NBA or something like that. Um,
Yeah, man.
so
Like every time people ask about you, I'm like, that's like you're like my litmus test. I'm like, are you really in sport performance? Oh, you don't know who Charlie is? Oh, you're not really in sport performance. You
oh
don't know,
man,
like, you're not in pro sports. I should clarify. Like, you're not in pro sports if you don't know this guy. And every
well,
time I have to introduce you or let someone ask about you, I'm like, how do I explain? Well, I guess technically he's a physical therapist. But like, this is going to go poorly if this is where your brain went.
oh man, we can get into that, but I want to get back to my question because you're right. I really do struggle with identifying what I do. I often like somebody will ask, and I'll just like look at Allie and let her answer it because I really it's but I think the first time I heard your name was in TPI Power course,
Mm.
Titleist Performance Institute, where Greg Rose spoke at Ali and I's wedding. He and I are very, very close. So I was taking his course, which is like a hybrid, I guess, in terms of long drive, but like intelligent fitness. I think if you cancel out the unique golf swing issues
Mhm. Mhm.
that would be relevant to long drive guys, it's really an intelligent fitness course. That's a little bit of a plug because
I'm
TPI.
gonna side plug it even more, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't think people realize how much TPI's done for just rotational power stuff. I mean, you
just
think of it as golfing, but like, man, if you're a baseball guy, if you're anyone at javelin, like their stuff on
yeah.
rotational, it's tremendous. And I know so
Well,
many people have gone down there and learned from him.
there's
Baseball guys constantly.
I'm going to go beyond that because first of all, if you trained, I've said this, if you train anybody in any sport with the basic entry level methods that TPI would teach, I don't even care that if it's rotational or not. If you trained an
Fair.
NFL linebacker just using the principles and concepts, I think it would be extremely effective, especially in a continuing education space where general fitness is hard. Like, what should you take for fitness? I'm like, I mean, obviously I struggle with any kind of linear question, but so Raj, TPI is Titleist Performance Institute, and but yeah, but even beyond rotational athletes, and at the end of the day, it is a fantastic commercial experience for education. Like they've never, I've never gone to a TPI course and been like, that sucked. Like it's always
No.
very, very professional, to
Yeah.
the point. Um,
And you're going to
and
find a
look,
bunch of pros there too in those classes. Like, it's not a
yeah,
bunch of rookies and like, you're going to find pros that train
mm-hmm.
pro athletes in those classes
No, no
constantly.
question, no question, no question. So there was a segment that began that seminar in terms of discussing, I think we're going to call it neurophysiology, in
Hmm.
terms of Greg explaining, really what are the target tissues when you want something to contract faster. Because I think if we say contract faster, we could start by saying, well, there's a lot of equations and components. I have a slide where it starts off with, x equals, a plus b, and then there's a whole nother equation, and then a whole bunch of, like, next thing you know, the whole whiteboard is filled up. And I
Right.
think because it was a little bit sensational, your or Greg's interpretation of what you were saying was that the target tissue is really the fascia, and the length of the contractile tissue, the muscles, is really more related to that. So I just teed that up for you. Let's talk a little bit about that first here.
Yeah, well, okay. So basic movement. I mean, I know you know this, Charlie, but just so we're on the same page, is you have three primary things that are going to drive it categorically. So you have to have some sort of nerve impulse. And at this point, I don't care if it's central, if it's local, peripheral. It doesn't matter. Something has to tell a muscle to contract. A muscle then, part two, has to actually contract. And then part three, that muscle contraction has to move connective tissue because muscles are not connected to bone. So movement doesn't happen with muscle. It goes through connective tissue attaches to bone. That whole string quartet makes the sound happen, right? So you got to have nerve, you have to have muscle contract, you have to have connective tissue. A couple of interesting points here. I don't know where you want to go, but one of them is, like, if you look at training adaptations, it's very clear that, of course, there are many peripheral nervous system adaptations. Muscle is very plastic. It responds to lots of training very quickly. And connective tissue is sort of the forgotten child. The science is very, 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 very poor, nascent in connective tissue, for a lot of reasons. The adaptation is slower, etc. But if you look at things like passive stretch and passive range of motion, or even active for that matter, doesn't really matter. You just have a lot of false findings of where you're going, right? So you have to be able to understand. This is like so much is in your course. Like your T equals R stuff. You cover a lot of this. But you have to get a better basic picture of, like, is either the benefit, the way that I'm moving well, or the way that the reason I'm moving poorly, is it coming from nerve, basically locking you down or freeing you? Is it coming from muscles' inability to produce force? or is it coming from the third section? You're just not transferring it there. And just super quick examples of if you can stretch something, quote unquote, and 5 minutes later you have a greater range of motion. Well, you know that's not muscle actually changing its length. There's nothing happening there. There's no chance, right? So you simply had something neural or connective tissue, and those things are actually like basically one is controlling the other. And so that's, I think, like the big part of what we're getting at here. So you have a lot of ways you can play this game, whether you're talking about actually like stretching to improve range of motion, or you mean actually a larger range of motion through an exercise to produce force differently. So there's just a lot to go into here, which is really fun. But that's like the big concept to pay attention to is those things. So you have a lot of room for manipulation, whether you're talking about acute stretch stuff or actually training adaptations or long-term range of motion. You have clear targets to go after now.
Well, that's the thing.
I'm not sure if we're way off what you're thinking, but
well, I'm starting to paint a little bit of a storyline on how I first heard your name and how we met, et cetera, et cetera. This is, but obviously, I think a lot of people are going to be tuning in not to hear two dudes catch up, but and tell inside jokes, but rather let's put some of the backdrop to that storyline. So when it comes to what we're in that context of that power, and I think a lot of people would probably suggest that when you're stretching something, you're stretching the muscle. And I think that was the concept when I say it was a little bit sensational, because as you mentioned, you're not stretching the muscle, and in fact, that's just based on what the constituency or what the connective tissue is made out of. I've gotten away from use. The only time I say muscle now is that if there is a treatment technique that you kind of have to say the muscle, because that's how everybody knows it as. Like, for instance, there are 3 trigger points in the infraspinatus. I don't typically say the name of the muscle. What I'll say is the contractile elements. Now, people are going to get mad at me because I'm using a big word instead of a little word. But what we're really trying to appreciate is that all of these things like really are more similar than different. So
totally.
the contractile elements, based on what they're made out of and the percentages, they can't stretch. They can get longer and shorter, but they can't really change, what they are based on what they're made out of at that time.
Yeah, very difficult. I mean, you have there's been a number of cool studies where they've actually taken like a single cell out of any given muscle of an animal, and they've just hung like a weight on it, and they've hung it for weeks at a time. And in that particular case, you actually will stack sarcomeres on end, and you'll make them longer. But now we're so far removed from like a human. You would have to do a hamstring stretch for like 4 weeks loaded.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't mean like every day. I mean like the entire thing permanently for weeks. So yeah, in general, like you're going to have a more difficult time doing that. Especially when you could even argue that most of the range of motion that's happening in a lot of, especially rotational movements, it's not actually lengthening the muscle. In fact, a lot of times it's an isometric contraction so that the connective tissue can expand out to. It's like, this is a classic example. I'm not sure I don't even know what you think about this, but just think of like the lat during a baseball pitch. I mean, the lat's not trying to be stretched and come right back and contract. It's trying to actually hold isometrically for the most part, so everything else can snap kind of around it. So it's massively increasing the length there. It's probably not going to help you throw any harder. In fact, probably going to make you worse. I don't know how deeply you've thought about like mechanics of the pitch, and that's get us way off track. But it's just one example. I might give you 100 more, but
I actually have thought of that, particularly as it relates to me, because again, I and we're going to get to this, because one of the things that you do very, very well is give general answers. It's hard for me to give a general answer about that lat, because if you're running into an issue where you think the lat is not reaching an excursion, okay, so we're going to say it's not the actual contractile elements. If you do some kind of treatment or breathing or needle or what you call a mobilization drill, you affected the fascia. Okay, that was
totally.
especially if it's an exercise. That's more important, because if as soon as you touch somebody, you can say you're going to follow some of the literature that says faster response to vibration more than smash. But if you're touching the skin, that means you're touching the epidermis and the dermis and then the contractile elements and the fascia. You are touching so many things, and all you can say is that something happened. You can't say what you did, even though the commercial model says you did this. But you can't say you did that because there's so many structures and at least 8 different specialized nerve endings that you might have impacted. Okay.
Yep.
Now getting back to the lat, if somehow your mechanics of throwing is not ideal, and you want to implicate this muscle here, well, how do you know that it's not the capsule, which is another type of connective tissue that has a whole bunch of different percentages of the same things. So for somebody like me, we can actually prove or disprove this very, very easily. Where do I feel? You know, if you crank me into a lat stretch, do I feel where the joint opens and where the lat is supposed to be getting longer, or do I report some kind of sensation somewhere else? So that's how we're gonna primarily bucket. Now this is something at the joint. So if it is connective tissue, it's the capsule, but maybe it's not connective tissue. Maybe you have some actual joint. You know, when I go like this, I'm talking about the distal end of the clavicle and the proximal end of the acromion. So if there's an arthritic change there, which is obviously very common for people that bench press a lot, so now that created this sensory environment years ago.
Yep.
And the adaptation was to the capsule,
Totally.
which then doesn't allow me to get long through the lat, when in fact, by this time for somebody like me, yes, there probably is some adaptive shortening, probably not fibrotic, hopefully, at this age, you know, but so you see, like, it's this unraveling thing, but you're never making the muscle longer. And I think that's what Greg was trying to interpret. So like, stop thinking that you're stretching a muscle when in fact you're doing something to the fascia to relax, which then allows the length to continue.
Definitely. Like, if you think about it this way, from what, quote unquote, you do, right? Let's take any manual work on somebody. Again, you got 3 things that are going to be regulating movement. You got nerve, muscle, and connective tissue, right? So you go in there and put your thumb on me and do magic, say a spell. I don't really care what you do, right? Press hard, press small, vibrate it, roll it. Doesn't really matter, right? And now all of a sudden movement is restored or improved. Any way you want to look at it, whether it's mechanically or it's passive range of motion or active range, it doesn't matter. Okay, what actually happened? I guarantee you nothing changed in the muscle tissue.
Yeah, that's right.
Muscle is the endpoint, right? But what you're trying to manipulate are the two, the endpoint or the outpoint, right? The muscle is the middle. So you're either trying to get nerve, because if, let's say your muscle is bundled up and cramped and tight or whatever that means, it's doing that because it's being told to do that. And so you have to stop that signal, number one. Or you need to get the connective tissue out of the way. It's not the muscle. Muscle is just the reaction. It's sort of like saying, the car is driving too fast. Like, well, geez, it's going too fast. We got to put some, like, no, just take your foot off the gas pedal. Or it's not going fast enough. It's the input first. Push down on gas or push down on brake. What are we doing here? Oh, okay, great. Second part is how fast are we actually moving. It's the muscle is just the representation of what the hell's happening on the front or end of it, right? And so that's why you can see things like acupuncture or needle do something. You could also see a physical intervention work, or any number of ways to go about it, or it could be exactly what you were talking about with something like a learned capsular response. It could be any of those things, but the muscle is just the place you're seeing it. I have pain here, or I'm seeing dysfunctional movement pattern. Okay, great. But the way you're going to affect it is that first piece or that last piece.
Yeah. You can't change from that type of treatment. If it's I call it dramatic. Like, if it's a dramatic change, it's not voodoo, it's not make believe. Now, I would probably be very condescending to anybody who thinks it's going to last, because all you did was affect the nervous system's impact on the fascia. That means the capsule was fine. It was always that long. You were always 100%. That flexible. Always that flexible.
Exactly.
What I think you can see aside from a needle, because that's a little bit different animal, where the literature of when you do put a needle into something and you are under ultrasound, you can see some actual very tangible things, particularly when you spin the needle. That's not a commentary on Eastern versus Western. They're both very effective for different reasons. But if indeed something changed from whatever, you just touching them and rubbing them and whatever, under musculoskeletal ultrasound, if you blow it up, you can see a longitudinal difference between what you think are
Yep.
things like the H zone. You're not going to get more. That's a different way of mobilizing,
Yep.
which can happen in a much shorter time than passive if we tumble force into as many like active and your hands in a particular direction. But you'll because there's not more if there's 6 in the same space that you're measuring on ultrasound. There's not going to be more than 6, except
Yeah. Totally.
they'll appear to be wider apart.
Definitely.
That's not where I was planning on going with this but obviously there's so many messages that like manual therapy doesn't do shit or manual therapy is bad. I'm like, at the end of the day, all I can, let's say, because there's a lot of manual therapies that I think are like they're short on science. Like they're
Totally.
and I don't know why, because they work. Like I've seen like somebody's arm go from here to here.
Totally.
But in that seminar of 4 days, there's about less than 15 minutes of actual didactic learning. Like everything is hands on and do a special handshake, etc. So it didn't just work from magic, but it worked.
Of course.
So I think I did an IG Live. I don't know if George published it yet, but on how all these different manual therapies can work, because if it works really fast, it wasn't mechanical. It was
no,
and you were always
definitely
that long. You were always that long. And then if you remove, because that's how we learn. We don't learn by doing good things. We learn by stop doing the wrong thing. So it's about removing barriers.
Definitely.
So if you remove this neurological barrier, which at times requires manual therapy, like, but if I crack your neck and all of a sudden, like, you're not faking it. This wasn't like some kind of hijinks or something. Like you're like, I don't believe. Now there are some people that are really shady and doing some funny business. But I believe that happened. You have to believe, because capsules and fascia, they don't change in 4 seconds. They change over time. So if you do a little bit,
long periods,
give me a little bit of push here and a little push here, and you do your little muscle energy technique or whatever. It really worked. Like it's not like, oh, that's just a trick. I'm like, yeah, but like the person can move their neck now. Now we do some other stuff.
Totally.
And that's the issue. I think those people are just very angry when people champion manual therapy, and then they don't do anything after that. There's no active exercise.
Fine, I'm with you. Yeah, I agree.
So, but I think that big message when I first heard your name was to appreciate that you're not stretching the muscle, and that should change your mindset as a coach if we are looking to improve power in that context. But look, increased motion is good for anybody as long as you can control it. So, but I think the first time we connected individually was from our good buddy Gabe.
Yeah, man. So this is a classic example. By the way, I don't know if there's any questions coming in. I'll keep my eyes down there. So if you all got any questions, I'm gonna a bit of a backstory here.
I'll scroll here.
Yeah, I know that you've known Gabe for some time. Gabe was my former student years ago. He's now in the NFL, we'll say it that way.
Nah, you're gonna make some people mad now.
Okay, whatever. He works with exclusively NFL people out there. But here's a classic example how I started the conversation, man. Like I had an individual athlete, a fighter of mine that I'm very close with and is a big deal. And she had a gnarly injury. And I knew exactly what card to play. And I was like, Gabe, I try to never ask my friends these types of favors. But I was like, I need a favor. I need to be in contact with this guy. And he's like, done. I said, okay. And I mean, you just stepped right up, man. You were so warm and welcoming, and you just you helped us out big time. And we were in a bit. We were. It was a. I mean, it was a tough one, but we
Yeah,
got her in the right
we're
spot, and we
we're
got her
gonna
taken
make
care
sure.
of.
I'm sure people that follow you, they know, but we're not gonna say who it is. I do think
I'll
I
just put it
think
this way: we're real close to that comeback season.
yeah, yeah.
So you can go figure that out. I'm not exactly secret about who we're talking about, but yeah, for
The
sure.
the but obviously, like, Gabe is like a brother, and also how I met him, was based on trust. Obviously, we have a little bit of a similar background, even though I think everybody knows I was not active duty, but he was already out when I was in MARSOC
Yeah,
as the lead physical therapist. Um, but but yeah, I think what was most exciting for me to help you and your athlete was to demonstrate this is how shit's supposed to work.
yeah,
Because even and this athlete is without question at the highest level in their sport.
yep,
Now their sport is a little bit different in terms of how the world is structured, particularly with how uh, medical and performance are provided to these particular athletes. Um, but to get to this point, um, I think not initially, because initially we just talked about like, well, what would you do? I'm like, well, if the knee is blown out,
yeah,
and you'll tell me if I'm wrong or not. You might have been a little surprised with what I said, because it was not rehab. Like, even though, again, for me, the cornerstone of how I think is like a letter Y. So there's nothing you and I can do other than advocate and manage for someone that has their knee blown out. And quite frankly, this knee was blown out about as bad as a rotary knee injury can be.
yeah.
The what
Everything was gone. It was
what
brutal. The
Yeah.
first surgeon we took it to that looked at it was like, wow, like this is worse than a motorcycle accident. We were
Yeah.
like, oh, great.
Well,
So this was
well,
not like a, hey, we need a knee scope here and she'll be back in 6 weeks. This was, and
no.
again, this is why I called you in the first place, because it was not like it was just so bad. I was like, I need someone who's been through
Well,
professional athletes coming back from catastrophic knees.
but there's two things. I think what people like, as far as my opinion on, just because people, you know, whether it's financial or not, look, that's how it goes. Like, if you,
Yeah,
unfortunately or fortunately, depending how you look at it, in the way our healthcare is set up, you will not go to the best unless you have some financial resources. Whether that
definitely.
means going, like, to think that everybody just because they have this degree is good, including me, you, anybody, is ridiculous. You're allowed to be a really, really good person and suck at what you do.
Yep.
Unfortunately, some of these initial, even for the highest level of professional athletes, some of these initial surgeons, they not only sucked at communicating,
Yep.
but they didn't even know what the hell was going on, because this is where I'm not going to say that what it was, but this is why imaging, we should not be afraid of imaging. This one was easier because I'm sure the knee looked crazy when it happened, like Napoleon McCallum when we were like 8 years old, and his knee got all twisted. But
Yeah.
if this process got drawn out longer, this doesn't go well.
No,
So
no.
so to think that every situation can be rehabbed, and every situation is like this bullshit meniscal literature that, like, oh, well, don't clean up your meniscus, you can just rehab it, because these are, again, those are the same people that get mad about the manual therapy, because in this case we got to a point where, okay, we zeroed in on what our options are,
Yep.
um, but based on getting to New York, so yes, I am. In this case, I am talking about MRIs, and
Yep.
we'll scroll back here to about this ankle business here. It's a little bit too long while I'm in the middle of my diatribe. But like, So now if your insurance or your resources are limiting how quickly you get imaging, well, let's just rehab. Like sometimes that's okay. Like remember, I'm the therapist here. I'm the one that's saying no, you have to go have surgery, because a lot like Gabe, what you do, a lot of what I do, like for high level individuals, no, that's wrong way to say it. Just for people that choose to value is this management. So when you ask what I do, I'm like a manager.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And because I don't know how to do the surgery, but I know how to navigate the process. And this is why, whether it's athletes or people that value this process, it's very important. Number one, please don't be afraid of imaging. When you get it, get it.
Yep.
It doesn't, information is out there. Like we can know this. So, well, my doctor doesn't want to order the MRI. Go to a different doctor. Like it's information. Aside from the fact that I was telling the person yesterday that sometimes a physician won't write a prescription for a certain medication or imaging, and they are legally allowed to not tell you why, is because they're going to get dinged on how they have a contract with that insurance policy. There's reasons. So, and you are allowed to pay for things on your own. That wasn't this individual's issue. Their organization obviously pays for everything. But if we kept waiting, the percent of success of the surgery, it would have been significantly down. So just based on when you have every structure in the knee, and quite frankly, if this athlete was in a team sport where they kind of fend for themselves, I wouldn't even be saying this, because that would be information that could potentially impact their ability to make money in the future. But because this is a very centralized sport, just know that I'm glad that you guys were able to see that, like, no, there is a way to do this, and superstar Dr. X will actually get on the phone and spend as long as you need to make sure that this is the right situation.
We got lucky. Maybe we could dive into this part too about like the rehab strategy. Not necessarily like the specific tactics, but I think like because you were breaking up how what you really do is total performance optimization. I don't know what else to call it, for lack of a better, like management.
I'm just some dude. That's all.
Right. So I can just shed a little bit of light on what that looked like and why it went so well for her, given the fact that, I guess, a little bit of background. Professional athlete, just like you said, massive catastrophic knee injury. And so we had to, number one, make sure this was not going to be career ending. That was number one, right? Getting back fast as possible is great, but number one is like cannot be career ender. So how do we do this? And I'd say the big rocks were, of course, we have a very specific sleep strategy, stuff we use with her. So we already had that built for years. We just continued to manage that. Number two, we wanted to get her into her surgery basically as quickly as you can, and you can talk more about that. Number three, we wanted to continue training as hard as we possibly could immediately prior to the surgery and immediately post-surgery. And that was a very big part of the process for a lot of reasons we can talk about, but training as hard as you possibly can coming up and then going out of there. And then in this particular case, what we've had for a while now is because we have so much of her biomolecular blueprint already built out. So we have all of her physiology markers, all of her biomarkers, all that done. We were able to put on a very specific and precise nutrition and supplementation protocol that's going to put her body in the highest functioning ability possible. So we pulled out all the stops there, and 10 months later, I mean, she's sparring, like she's in, like, considering the time frame that we were put on her after that surgery from one of the more highly prolific surgeons in the country, and she's got a full-time physical therapist and stuff she's been with for a long time. Like, they were still like, hey, this is going to be a while. Like, you might be looking at 2 years before you're back, like fully able to fight again. She's crushing 9-10 months post. So like, it really helps when you can have a comprehensive plan, right? It's not just like, oh, this is my rehab plan or this is my surgery plan. You're like, oh, great. What are you doing with stress management? Yeah. What are you doing with breath work? What are you doing with sleep? What are you doing with hydration? Like, these are all big pieces. Of course, in this case, the surgery is what matters the most. Yeah. But these are places Like this is how you leverage the difference between an 11-month recovery and a 16-month recovery. Like that stuff
Sure.
builds up a long time over time. And it's not necessarily like, it wasn't that you just had better like money or anything like that. It was just the fact that everything was dialed.
Yeah,
And so
we put the train on the track as quickly as possible.
definitely.
So you actually described a one of the discovery calls that I take.
Yep.
Whether someone actually pays for the discovery call or not, I don't know. But it's basically it's really those three things, and then a bunch of the other ones fit into those three. Number one, get as close to training as aggressively as possible. Now, in this case, given the anatomical damage, surgery immediately was a focus. Like we could not
Yeah.
because we already waited too long. Luckily, there's no troubles. But you still have another leg and a trunk and two arms because sometimes with certain injuries, it is okay to wait, and sometimes it's good to wait. There's good reasons to wait. Some of them are mechanical, but
Yep.
most of them are physiological. That's number one, and then we build that out as we work together. Number two is sleep, and without getting too much into it, the key to sleep is to take advantage of safe, ethical, proper generation of IGF-1, aka human growth hormone, and which from other conversations, one of the biggest thing is immune response to physical activity in terms of generating CD8 cytotoxic T cells. There's multiple cytotoxic T cells, but the number one, and what I would suggest, because I think most people might find it interesting, cytotoxic T cells are the first immune cell to address something new. If you
Mm-hmm.
and now just jump that's why like we hear horrible diseases that people have no T cells. They're not dying from the no T cells. They've contracted some kind of issue virus that wipes out their T cells because they never had the virus before.
Yep.
So you use a T cell. So now, as I said, jump a couple steps. If you had an illness previously and you were able, and that illness did have antigens, then you can build antibodies. So the next time it hits, you have other types of immune cells. Not you
Yep.
don't need to rely on the T cells, which go up and down. The reason they go up and down because training and normal life, being underwater, stress to life, they don't have antigens. So
Totally.
you can't use B cells. Of course, autophagy is always going to be mediated by other types of immune cells, but the B and T are your motherfuckers. They're the ones,
Definitely.
and you're going to have to teach me one day of how do we, like we said, how do you eat for T cells?
Oh, oh, we
And
can do that.
it's just micronutrients now. I've learned it. But how do we eat for T cells? That's
Oh yeah.
crucial.
If you
Um,
want, here's what I'd recommend, a little bit of a cheat code here. Um, Go to Barbell Shrugged, and Dan Garner did about 2 or 3 special little, I call them podcasts, but they're not. They're basically straight up uh, optimizing nutrition as much as you can, or optimizing immune response, our immune system, immune function via nutrition, high precision stuff. Probably across 2 to 3, maybe total podcasts, but he goes straight into that stuff.
yeah.
So if you want to know, like, any of you listening out there, like, give me the breakdown, like the immune system, what are the systems, what are categories? And then he even talks about specifically what you can look for in blood work, very basic blood work that you would get at a physician. And you can find a lot of clues about what's going on across your body and some of this stuff, and then what to do actually about it. In fact, I mean, obviously we're going to cover a ton of this in the seminar,
Yeah.
but this is,
But that's where, like, when somebody, like, if somebody has overwhelmingly, exceedingly high levels of cytotoxic T cells, they will be able to train harder. In this case, recover harder, be able to do more quality work because it's like showing up with more money to the poker game. You're gonna lose. Like the T
yeah,
cells are they have to work. But if you have all this extra stuff in reserve, and we get that from sleep, and you get
yep,
that, but I mean there's strategies, but the immune cells and look and the big strategy as it relates to sleep is light. And if you're watching your phone, then cortisol knocks out the immune regeneration. They antagonize the equations.
Yeah, man,
Um,
everything is everything.
yeah,
That's what I would say. Like,
and that's like what I do. Like because I think there was a point that I started to understand. It's like if I'm who I want to be, I want to bat 1,000. But I can't be so arrogant to think that what I know how to do well, which would be the training process, the rehab, and then the team sport load management, like, well, there's also nutrition, sleep,
yeah,
and look, those are the six. But psychology, and we're all psychologists, but those are the six
yeah,
buckets, and then
yeah.
it's meant to be a bucket, because you reach into it, and now there's some. Each of those things have their own set of tests, and but that's we started to put all those things in place. But everyone, should do these things so that you have a higher level of load tolerance. I don't mean load like how much weight's on the bar, but more so, overall. So
Yep. So, like, this is the important too piece of um, why you need to have a little bit of these things. Oh, hey, look at that, Ben Bruno. Back in another IG Live, Ben Bruno. Look at that guy. Um, yeah, this is why you got to have some of like those buckets checked off when you're an athlete prior to. So the way that this whole thing works is if that stress bucket is overloaded with the pick your thing, sleep or something else, right? And that total load is a little bit higher than you want. Now you don't have any extra armor to send towards injury recovery. Adaptation happens because stress, right? So the idea is the more stress you can pile in, the more adaptation you have. The issue is if too much stress is there, adaptation doesn't happen or goes in the wrong direction. So what you want to do is maximize stress coming in the exact way you want it coming and nothing from anywhere else. So if you're already walking to a situation where you're low and you can't have a proper immunological response to a training, in this case, and we're trying to get a growth hormone response, we're trying to get a testosterone to move, we're trying to get cortisol to get regulated properly, but it's being dysregulated because of other stuff going on, whether it's your sleep or something else, you've just hampered your ability to recover from that injury that hasn't happened yet. So it's like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like
Well,
you want to recover faster from an injury, be healthier before it happens.
well, this is what. So here, I'll say exactly what the first conversation we had about, like, what do you do? It was probably something generic and whatever. Like, you have to get surgery. I can help you get to the best surgeons in the world. But when we said training, there's four things that, and I didn't tell you. I'm assuming at that time that correctly that there's a million ways to do all these things. But
Yep.
years ago, one of my mentors, Val Nasetikin, he's a founder of Omega Wave. He's having this meeting and he asks everybody in the room, like, what are you training for? What are the adaptations you're training for? And this one says explosive repeat sprints, and this one says repeat jumping, and this one says endurance, and this one says all of these, very, very useful, valid markers of performance. But not one of them said stress tolerance.
Yep.
So as a student of Val, and there's other ways to communicate this. It's just how I try to organize things and how I try to put answer your questions, for this athlete. All of those things are secondary. The primary adaptations for stress tolerance, which would apply to every single physical performer on earth. It could be a construction worker. It can be a fighter. It can be a baseball player. It doesn't matter. High mass of endocrine glands, high proliferation of cytotoxic T cells, and activity-specific heart, which is the one that has the most bandwidth. Like a shot putter or a power lifter has a very, very different heart than a marathon runner. Neither of which are probably the epitome of health. And then thirdly, which is to a lot of people in how they describe things, high oxidative function of all type 1 and type 2 fibers. Say, wait a minute, oxidative for type 2. Like, well, all right, you just don't really have a great grip on physiology, but that's okay.
Right.
Like, you're not a bad person. So all four of those things, if we can put that and then put a secondary tinge to how you set up that training cycle with whatever's useful for their activity, sport, etc., then you can do some really cool things. Because if someone has a hurt thing, whether they're
Yep.
recovering from surgery or an injury or a cold, at some point, all of those weapons target the same things:
Yep.
endocrine, the immune, cardiac, and oxygen delivery. So that's really that's the money in terms of. Here's another story. Um, One of the surgeons that we consulted with, a patriarch of orthopedics in New York City and the world. So we're sitting at a bar, in the Upper East Side, and he was enamored with blood flow restriction at that time. So this is like maybe 2017. So blood flow restriction many years, but because of baseball, certain guys were using it and making videos. He was interested, and so I knew where he was going because he's used to being the smartest person in the conversation. So I
Sure.
let him. So he's like, so what do you think is happening with blood flow restriction? I'm like, well, it's primarily a hormonal response because you're introducing this hypoxic environment, blah blah blah. And he goes, okay, so like I don't know what it is that you do, because he went on to explain some other philosophies that surgeons have. Like if they don't know, they just disregard it. They don't try
Yeah.
to learn it.
Totally.
They just disregard it. So he's like, all I know is that when you work with who you work with, they get better way faster. But I know you're not doing blood flow restriction. I'm like, well, I do sometimes, but I don't, because especially when I was in New York City, I wouldn't see as many post-surgical as maybe other therapists, because I would say that you want to do it, it's fine, but go use your insurance for 6-7 weeks, and then we'll pick up the pieces, or see me once a month to make sure they're not screwing it up. So at that point, the quality of the tissue would not require this very low load. But other times when I do see the post-surgical, blood flow restriction is a very useful, very significantly useful tool. But I said, yeah, like by introducing that significant hypoxic environment, and if you actually exceed some of the protocols that we think are safe for blood flow restriction without it, meaning you can go to
Mhm.
failure, you will increase we think you'll increase mass of endocrine glands and improve anabolic hormones.
Yeah.
That's why they get better. And they're doing it in other areas that have nothing to do. He then did go on to say that, if I, because now HGH is not the same. Those are different protocols. Anabolic hormone, HGH, two different things. You can
Yeah.
train for these things. You can train for them in a safe, ethical way for different things. Now, I'm, I get caught up in these conversations all the time. But when you see athlete X at the age of 40 something, and you have no idea how he's doing it, and he's not really jacked up, he's not that big, HGH doesn't make you diesel like it makes you play till you're 49. Like that's like,
Yeah, for sure.
oh my God. So,
I
but
wrote I wrote a paper years ago, maybe 13 or 14 years ago, published it, um, outlining what the actual effects of HGH are. And like, sorry guys, it's not an anabolic hormone.
no.
It's
Now,
like it's
a
not
lot.
actually like, does it have a secondary anabolic effect? Well, we could get into that, for IGF-1 and stuff, but it's not. Like you have to
Yeah,
just look. It's not a steroid hormone, first of all. It's not. It's just like fundamentally not a steroid hormone. It's just not what it does.
yeah,
It has bigger effects in other places. That doesn't mean it's not important for
yeah.
many of these things, because it is. But that's not all right. So yeah, there's a lot of other cool things that it can do. But like, if that's what you're looking for, man, go to testosterone. It's more
But
effective.
yeah. So,
It works
but
well.
when it comes to the rehab process, human growth hormone is probably much more important
Probably.
at some level. You would pick one versus the other. You take the human growth hormone, because if we're looking for connective tissue to remodel, that's happening. You and I were completely every cell in our body was different, some random number 30 days ago.
Sure.
HGH accelerates that. So if I have a process that is retarded by the natural inflammatory response, and I get loaded up, then I'm going to recover faster. But,
Yeah.
however, there's a more costly process. So if you introduce moderate levels of lactate over a significant period of time, aka intelligent boot camp, you
Yeah.
will stimulate human growth hormone. Now
Yeah.
there's a cost to that. You have to move, you have to do exercise. You can't just, go through this, seemingly passive process, which then allows you time to do other things. But when I was talking with that surgeon, so now about the impact not of human growth hormone but of the anabolics, because
Hmm.
that's what human blood flow restriction, like your muscles get bigger when they're not really supposed to get bigger because you're not lifting a lot of weight. It's not the weight that triggers it. It's the hypoxic environment from using heavy weight that
For sure.
triggers mTOR, et cetera, et cetera. But now going back to this athlete, if there is an impressive response on how quickly they were able to do more things, well, how about get on the rower, like we described, and put a little stool next to the rower and row. And now the big thing, though, that I want to bring to light is the only thing unique about this is not the knowledge, is that
Hmm.
nobody got in the way. The surgeon,
Totally.
the
Yeah.
surgeon didn't say, no, you can't do that. She's not cleared to do that. Man, shut the like that's so the best surgeons in the world. Not only are they good with their hands, they're team players, and they know that as long as there's trust, and in this case there was, that they're not going to get in the way of these things because there's no reason not to. It doesn't mean nothing bad happens. That's I mean, there's inherent risk in everything, but I always say, like, if you have a sprained ankle, why would you not do pull-ups? Like, I mean, you could probably say some kind of
Yeah.
kinesiology 101 that the lat connects to this, that connects to this, that connects to this. The fact is like, why wouldn't you? Well, if you're going to do pull-ups and your body has some kind of systemic approach, well, then your ankle might get better.
Yep.
I'll read this one. So you so take HGH training recreate. Now, I'm not recommending that. We're talking
Absolutely
about
not.
because
Endogenous. Yeah.
yeah, we talked about a training process that would stimulate. So moderate levels of lactate over a significant period of time, which feels like a boot camp, which feels like calisthenics and low complex exercises, typically 30 to 80 seconds, but then you have to pick the right intensity. That will stimulate human growth hormone. Like that's everybody injured should be doing those types of things. Like that's a so no, we're not suggesting somebody should be popping it. Like we're talking about, there are always training programs that can do everything. They just have to be played with like Tetris because nothing is
Yeah.
free. Like everything
Yeah.
has a cost
But
to that.
lactate
So
itself is actually a massive fuel as well, just directly itself. So, um, like getting that protocol done, you're also putting fuel directly into the injured area, which is the metabolism of injury recovery is huge. It's completely often disregarded. You can look at this from any number of sources. This is from creatine to lactate. You put fuel right directly in injured areas, whether this is the brain or actual skeletal muscle. It's very, very, very helpful. Your body will basically pick lactate over almost any other fuel, including glucose, often. So, given the choice between the two, so you're getting this biphasic effect, benefit of doing something like that. And this is when you look at the outcomes as well. The outcomes show the same thing, right? So it's clearly working, and then we have pretty good indication of why. So you
yeah,
get like to me, it's nonsensical to not do it as much as you can.
yeah. Well, I have tons of situations where they're afraid. Like just because you're in a knee brace doesn't mean you don't have another leg and arms to train hard.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going to scroll back here. So we've got some questions. After a patella rupture, could I build a certain muscle to get the leg as straight as the healthy one? Um, I don't know that your muscle is weak. So if it's a patella rupture, and you basically can't straighten your leg, first question I would ask, and this is actually going to segue into the next piece here before we finish up in, you see how like these are really good questions. I'm asking more questions because
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer things like simply. Even though people would say, Charlie, you make things sound simple. I'm like, okay, well, I don't feel like that all the time. Getting back to our patellar tendon guy, hey, can someone else move your knee? Like, can someone else make it straight for you? So if you can't make it straight, you can't do a straight leg raise. But if I put my hand under your heel and I lifted it up, does it get
Yeah.
straight? If the answer is yes, you have, what's called, unfortunately, an extensor lag, which is much more of a neurological issue than a mechanical one.
Yep.
Your body adapted undesirably to this situation, and you probably do need some kind of external setup in order to get you right up to the point that you can't control. Your body's not listening anymore. Like, it doesn't. The signal is no longer extending through the tendon to lift the bone, and you need to bring some heavy isometrics and active assisted. Now, if I put my hand under your heel and I can't lift it up, then there's a mechanical blockage that needs to be evaluated. I don't know what to do. If it hurts, don't do it. But you're actually lucky. So if you try to straighten it and it doesn't go straight and you feel it in the back, all right, I prefer that one. But if you feel nothing and it's just like this empty feeling, you can't tell that anything has a sensation of stretch. Hey, we just got to figure out what it is. If you do feel it in the back, like in the top of your calf or the bottom of your hamstring, we should be able to go back to what we were talking about first, and finding some of those mobility drills, because you're at least at that position, the joint is not in the way, at least yet. But so I don't know if we missed any other ones here. Hairline fracture, left pinky toe. Yeah, you're still squatting and lifting. You're good. I don't know what is type in what's your name? Hey, Stud Muffin O'Brien. What are your limitations? Like, what do you mean never fully healed? Toes suck. They're so far away, and the joints are so small, but they can be treated. You can do things at those. It kind of seems annoying that you would have to go see somebody to get those joints mobilized, but that can be. But hey, what do you think about this? Because other people that are very popular right now, they seem to flourish because you have an ability to answer questions with single answers. Hey, is this good? Yes, it's good. Hey, should I take this? Yes, take this under this circumstance. I have found that I can't do that anymore. Like, it's too much because I can be wrong. But do you think it's just because the nature is so physiologically oriented that those questions, are so easy to answer? Like, I struggle with that.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it this way. You can go back about 12 years in my academic career now, and if you ask any of my former students to give like one word summary of me in the classroom, they're probably, I would say with a 95% certainty, every one of them is going to say, oh, all he's going to say is, it depends. Like that's my answer for everything, right? In fact, I always warn people before I go on podcasts and stuff. I'm like, well, you better be very careful how you ask your question, because if you give me those big, broad questions like that, you're going to get me going, well, gee. And that's because of the scope of who I work with, right? Like, I know that when they bring questions, say that they work in soccer or something, like their brain is kind of geared towards soccer. But I'm over here thinking, well, I'm going to hang up this call and call a 24-year-old UFC fighter, and then I'm going to hang up that call and call a 39-year-old professional golfer, and then I'm going to hang up that call, and I got to, like, so my brain is like, well, in this situation, terrible idea. This situation, great idea. All over the place, right? So in my brain, when people first ask questions like that, I'm always like, all right, what would be some examples of a situation when it would work, and what's an example of a situation when it wouldn't work? So I try to answer it like that. But I would also say, in general, probably where most people heard of me kind of initially was I was one of the I don't know how to say this, but I was very clear when I was on Rogan, answering every question like that. And there was a point where he kind of was just like, okay, like trying to get, because prior to that, basically everyone is, oh, carbs are terrible or whatever, right? And I'm always like, well, geez, there's some athletes we can do this with and some athletes you can't do it. And so like, and people hadn't really done that much in that program before. So my instinct is like, actually, I'm more probably similar to you in that regard, than opposite is, especially with now how much like individual physiology stuff we have. Like, man, it's just so much depends on what you got going on. It depends on other factors, what you can get away with based on what's going on in your sleep and what's going on in your other stuff. But at the same point, you try to make it so that not every single conversation is like, well, wishy-washy, because then it's just annoying as fuck to listen to.
Well, there's a lot of things, like, so for instance, two totally different things that would really, when I say offend me, it's not like, you know, I'm gonna fight somebody, like, because I'm pretty good at not caring, especially when I get to go to Disney whenever I want. But number one, I have no idea how anybody ethically can put out a product that says this is what you do for back pain, or this is what you do for this problem. And they're out there, and people that are, there's 42 people left in here, it's been as high as 60 something, they buy it, they love this dude, or that, or whoever this person is, and I have no freaking idea. Why do you possibly think that this finite amount of solutions is going to solve for everybody?
Do you have any idea how many requests I've gotten over the years? Like, I can't even explain to you how many requests I've gotten for, will you put out a nutrition thing? Will you put out a training book or whatever? Like, never, ever. I'm sorry. Like, that's never coming for that exact reason. I would feel like, I mean, even when we wrote our last book, Unplugged, like, they wanted a thing in the back, and I'm just like, no. And we put something together. But for that exact problem, I'm like, man, this is going to be terrible for some of you. Like, this is going to be straight up, no matter what you do, it's going to be terrible.
Especially, though, in my space, when there's pain, like, first of all, you have no 100%. Idea that pain is not cancer, or something like that. You don't know. There are ways to be very keen to get what's called a differential diagnosis.
Definitely, yeah.
But that being said, you know, hey, you know, I have this pain up near my shoulder. Go to the ER. You know, like, you'll save 1 out of every 10,000 people. But it's just baffling. You know, try this exercise. I'm like, oh my God, like, how do you know that's not going to make them worse? What are you going to do then? Or use, you know, foam roll with spikes, this area. Yeah. Right. And what I think happens is, like, you only remember the 60 or 70% of the people that, you know, actually do well. And we don't, you know, you never hear about the ones that actually get worse. And I get angry about it because I'm the one that has to fix it, because, you know, they're at wit's end. They tried this person, so now they're going to come see me. And I hate having to say that, oh my God, what a dumb thing. Like, because I don't say that. I try to use the best, safest language possible, but they're not stupid. They realize, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that, right? And that's why, like, people always ask, even at high level, you know, professional athletes, oh, what do you think of this? I'm like, dude, I'm not answering you because, you know, like, tell me what you really want to know, and I bet you'll get the answer to that. The other thing, and I want to make sure I get this line right, because I think, yeah, there's some in this space now where people are doing really, really well with good messages. Science. When somebody hangs their hat on evidence, and there's no evidence for that, and there's significant evidence for this, a statement like, Andy, do you have you know, something that'll work for 75% of the people 75% of the time? I'm like, are you that is like the essence of not science. Like, that is you're everything you want to say is science, and then you ask about 75% of the time is going to work for 75% of the people. That is the essence of not science. Like, that's, so I give, you know, it's like, and that's where I think, because that's what people want. That's what the listener wants. And it's just, I just really struggle, at least in my current mindset, to be able to get close to that. Like, I don't know, man. Like, you know,
it's a hard juxtaposition, right? Because on one hand you have, like, all right, if we can get some thousands of people doing slightly better stuff, giving general principles, okay, fine. Makes my skin crawl like it does yours, but that's because we live in a world of high precision. We can get any testing we want. We can get any other stuff that we want to figure out what is optimal for this individual person. You and I both work on a similar model with professional athletes in the sense that I don't work with 30 a month, right? Like it's very low volume, very high touch. We're going to get in and figure out this person because we're going to look at a 360-degree profile of them and figure them out, right? Like that's always what I've done in my career. That's the only thing I'm ever going to do in my career because I like that. I like being able to go figure out, no, it's just this right here, or this shit's going to make you worse, whatever the case is. I do emphasize a little bit for the people who are like, okay, well, I don't have you or Charlie. Like, what the hell do I do? Like, okay, fine. You got to learn this stuff on your own a little bit. You got to self-experiment. So, okay, like, I guess I'll give you some general guidelines, but like, don't call me in 3 weeks when you're like, well, this didn't work. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
So if we're good there, we understand the terms. You're not going to call me in 3 weeks if it didn't work. Fine. Then I'm happy to give you some rough guidelines. But I'd also say that's the response to like 95% of the DMs I've ever gotten in my life.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't get those as much anymore. Maybe my time has come and gone. I don't know, but it's really weird to see the messengers that are really getting a lot of traction, and look, don't confuse me for somebody who cares. This is just a conversation. So obviously I care a little bit, but it's so interesting as to the hunger for that completely linear answer in a world that's multivariant and non-linear. Like it's if you told me one thing that you didn't know, it would change everything. It would change the total response.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
hey, do me. I'm gonna scroll here to see some of these questions, but while I'm doing that, please talk about the end of or the middle of next month, where I'm gonna fly into Orange County so I can go to Disneyland for a day or two, and then head over to Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah, man. August. Thank you. Appreciate that, by the way. August 13th and 14th. Doing my first ever like seminar like this. So it's called Biomolecular Blueprint. 2 days. Myself and Dan Garner. He's going to be coming out. You think you're coming all the way out here from God knows wherever you are, Florida or New Jersey or any number of places you're at in your travels. Dan's coming all the way off from Canada. It's going to be 2 days, and we're going to basically walk people through our high performance model. So this is day one, exactly what to measure in an athlete or a high performer, doesn't matter if they're an athlete, and how to make sure that you collected those data appropriately so you don't have false flags. This is everything from hydration to diet to blood work to stool to sleep, everything sort of in between. And then day two is developing high precision programs based on those responses, right? So based on what you saw in those entire systems, how do you put together a supplement protocol if needed, or lifestyle change, or hydration, nutrition, again, based on exactly what that individual tested for. And I say the real key to that is people have a tendency, especially when they're new to working with high performers, to just throw them everything. And it's like, okay, here's nutrition, here's supplementation, here's hydration, here's sleep, here's breathing, here's stress management. Here's this training protocol. And you're like, okay, stop. So the part of the end of the seminar is figuring out which things to layer to an athlete at what time. And so it can be effective and useful. Again, even if it's not an athlete, people just have limited bandwidth, no matter who they are. And so, yeah, it's just like, all right, you put this stuff together, you figured out what to give them. And now how do you put this together in a program? It's kind of like a macro cycle, if you will. But instead of just training, it is, where's the macro cycle for sleep? Where's the macro cycle for any other stuff that you're putting together? And then build them in basically into a training camp is kind of what it looks like. Lifestyle change, whatever. So we're going to give you all the secrets, man. That's that's what we're going to unveil. Stuff that we've been doing for a very long time. So
yeah, no, it's going to be cool, and I think at least a lot of stuff that I see, for people are excited. Hey, what we're going to do is we talked about this, and it's going to be your final decision. I think it should be a student. I don't care if they go to Fullerton or not, but I want you guys to run some kind of contest or some kind of gimmick, whether it's students or basically somebody who legitimately can't afford it. I think a lot of people can afford things and they just choose not to. So
For sure.
and I'm gonna pay for somebody to go to your course, and then you and your crew, you pick, you from your listeners, how you want to do that. You just let me know. I'll take care of it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I feel like the people who are in this chat room have first dibs on that.
All
That's a
right.
great way to start.
How are we gonna How are we gonna figure out if they're a student? Or
Um,
is that the answer? Is that, or you just want to do it for anybody who decided to come in?
well, here's what I'd say is, I don't know, man. I'll clarify this. I'll figure this out. I probably want to do honor system a little bit in the sense of like, um, hey, man, like if you can afford it and you're choosing not to, um, fine. But if you feel like somebody really is, that just don't. I guess just honor system it. Like
All
that's my gut instinct. I'm not going to go check W-2s and you know
right.
it, things like that. So I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on this one. But I think if you're in here and you're either in the
Okay.
local Southern
Here we
California
go.
area or you're willing to cover your own travel and you want that ticket,
All right. Here we go.
what,
Here we
what
got. Here we
do you
got.
want them to DM you? What do you want? What do you want to
Here's
do?
what I want to do. There's a question that I scrolled through. I typed in the answer. Hey, if anybody thinks that there's a question from me or Andy, just message. We'll do our best to respond. I can tell you, for as long as people have shown interest in me, I have never not responded to an email. But I don't know if it's the response you always want. There was a question. Here's how we're going to know somebody was in here. As I was scrolling, someone with little short hair like mine, except hot blonde, she wants to know who's your favorite superhero and your favorite Disney character. The person that is going to get this is going to have to use those as a code word. That's how they'll prove they were in here. And if they left, too bad. So who's your favorite superhero? And I'll start with mine. They only have to name yours. They don't have to remember mine. My favorite superhero is the Hal Jordan Green Lantern, even though people would think it's Guy Rayner, given the low temper. And my favorite Disney character is Scrooge McDuck,
Huh.
because
Um,
I want to dive into a money pit like that in Duckburg.
brilliant. I think that's the best answer to Disney. When you first said that Disney character, I was like, oh boy, like I don't have anything to. But Scrooge, that's a fantastic one. That's so
That's
good.
good. That's good. I mean,
Um,
you're good.
I
You're
like
good with those.
curmudgeons anyways, so I'm down
He's
on that.
Yeah, so like the number two would be Grumpy in a close second. But like I think the first time I met Scrooge McDuck, I said it's an honor to meet you. He didn't respond because he's in a big costume. Now, I used to have a T-shirt that Allie would wear to bed, and it had Scrooge on it. So I told Scrooge that she sleeps with you every night, and then him and Donald just went off. It was awesome. It was awesome. It was awesome. I told you none of this. I told you none of this is planned. And when I can barely fit in the screen, I'm allowed to talk about Disney. I'm allowed to talk about Disney characters.
All day, man. You're
All
forking
right,
out the quid to put somebody in the seminar too. That's you get to do whatever you want to do.
all right. So the person who proves that they have to give your answers.
All right, so I gotta give my answers now.
Yeah.
Um, boy, I'm so not. When you start getting into pop culture, dude, I fall off the universe. Um, I guess my initial instinct, uh, can I say, oh God, what's his name? Um, oh, Ryan Reynolds made a movie about him recently, fairly recently, a couple of them.
Deadpool.
Um, Deadpool. Like, how do you
Okay.
not love Deadpool?
It's very
Like,
fun. Yeah.
absolutely, right?
I feel like you're setting me up with something, so I'll just say that character like Deadpool, Ryan does so well because he's not really acting.
100%.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just him. Like, in fact, my wife like is pretty pissed at that
All right.
movie because she's like, it's just him being him.
Okay, check
I'm
this
like,
out. Check this out.
sorry.
So I'm treating Ryan, so he's kind of like face down, but he turns his head to talk. there's several things that I learned in my life to never, ever, ever do. Number one, don't ever ask Indomitian Sue about the stop. Okay, don't ever do that. No one had to tell me that. Don't ever ask, don't ever ask Chris Webber about the timeout. No one ever told me that I had to do that.
Yeah,
And
didn't need to be ever be told. Don't ask Dominican Sue about
yeah,
stomping on a guy.
you don't need that. And now I have a story when someone did do that, and like the world stopped. And number three, no one ever needed to tell me don't ask Ryan Reynolds about Green Lantern. So
Oh,
the so we're talking,
that's
and
probably why I came up with Deadpool. You threw the Green Lantern at me. You put him in the back of my head, and then I pulled it up.
so we have had significant conversations, and one of which is my distaste for all the comic book movies is like they recycle the actors, and I'm like okay, fine. If you were gonna be, because we call it the other guy because he really hates Green Lantern, you know what I'm talking about. So like if you're gonna be the other guy, you could be Deadpool because they're in different universes, and we're never gonna see them turn up. But like you can't be this, like you can't. They were going through who was gonna be Cable, and it was
Mhm.
Josh who got it, and I think there's a cool picture on my Instagram with me and Josh Brown. But it was him. It was Michael Shannon who was Zod in Superman. And
Oh, okay.
I'm like, no, you can't be those two because it is possible that Cable and Thanos could be in the same room. And then
Totally.
so he goes like, oh, so you don't want Michael Shannon because he was Zod? I'm like, of course not. He goes, Charlie, we never have any fucking actors left if we followed your rules. So Deadpool, and then who's your favorite Disney character?
um, Now you're gonna have to help me too with who qualifies as Disney or not. I
No,
would
no,
say
no problem, no problem.
right now, I'm kind of like you. I don't like You're not gonna hear me say the like Supermans and like those ones are never gonna appeal to me that much. It's gonna be somebody off taste. Um, I'll say right now, like I think technically, no, they don't. Looney Tunes is not Disney, right?
Yeah, yeah, no.
Um, Boy, I don't know much.
You have like a 3-year-old daughter. I mean,
I got a
how do we?
4-year-old daughter and a
Yeah.
2-year-old son, but we don't do much.
All right.
Like we don't do much
All right.
TV
So
stuff. So
somebody who is going to be honest about their interest in the course and their ability to pay. You're gonna message Andy and use the code word Deadpool, and I'm gonna cover you to go to the course in August. How about that? We
yeah,
good?
and just to be super clear, how you want, Charlie, but I don't need any, nor do I want any justification, if you will, from you. So you don't need to sell me your story. I'm just going to assume if you're sending this message, it's because you need it, and that's as far as you need to go to prove it. I don't want.
Sold. We figure out the best way to do it so somebody has enough time to get travel arrangements if they want. Now you're paying your way there, but your name will be out the door. But I had the idea as we talked a little bit before, because and we hopefully how I've treated your students and how they've helped me is a good place to be able to give back a little bit. So let's do that here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'd say this is obviously going to go pretty quickly. So first come, first serve.
And if they say Green Lantern, no.
Awesome, excellent.
All right, hey, I don't think we missed anything else. If there were any questions, there was that calf question, the big toe. Yeah, if your big toe is hurting, there is something that I think probably could or should be done. Did you catch anything that you wanted to respond to?
No, I didn't look too much.
All right, then we call it a day.
Dude, all right. Always good to catch up, man.
All right, we'll talk soon. Be well.
Yep. See you, bud.